So an absolute ton has happened on the SBF FTX front in just the last day and a half, really. Like, we had John Ray, who's the current acting FTX CEO, testify. We had Sam, who was denied bail, sent to prison. We have even a whistleblower that we just found out about that was paid $20 million who talked about Sam Bankman-Fried. And then we also found out that Sam might have put $300 million in some offshore Brazilian account after FTX or during FTX's collapse. Yeah, lots to cover. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. And I even have a clip of Sam leaving the courthouse. But before I play that for you guys, hit that subscribe button. All right, here's the clip.
In some activity, police officers, we can see Sam Bankman-Fried in a blue suit and a white shirt being walked to the vehicle. He is in handcuffs. He's been placed into the back seat of this blue Ford vehicle. He was surrounded by police officers as he was walked out. In the drone shot that you were looking at, you could have seen him.
All right, so you can see Sam's loaded up in the car, but where's he going? Well, they're sending him to the only, from my understanding, Bahamas prison, and looks like a pretty nice place. Here's some images of it. You can see here by all the fans, it looks like there's probably not AC in this place. So being that it's in the Bahamas and they don't have AC, I'm sure it is scorching in that prison. And yeah, it looks pretty rough. Like, I can't even visualize really Sam there. Like, the dude is going from a $40 million penthouse to this Bahamas prison, which is pretty crazy to me. Like I said, it's going to be interesting. Now, Sam tried to get out on bail, and they gave basically every reason under the sun as to why Sam should be let out on bail, including this snippet. It says, SBF, 30 years old, protested, telling Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt he couldn't go to jail because he is vegan and depressed. His lawyer had been seeking bail of $250,000. Yes, you heard that right. Sam tried to argue that he couldn't go to jail and that he should be allowed bail because he's vegan. You know, like how's the prison going to facilitate Sam Bankman-Fried being vegan? You know, that's not going to work very well, you know, especially in the Bahamas. They probably don't have the best meals in that prison. And he's depressed, you know, he's going through a lot right now. The man should be let out on bail. That was the argument. That was their argument. And we got another tweet which kind of talks about this a little bit more from Lydia Moynihan. And it says, SBF, quote unquote, suffered from depression, insomnia, and ADD for over a decade, according to Bankman-Fried's attorney, who is asking that his client be let out on bail. Now, as I said in the beginning, he was denied bail. So Sam's going to prison. But I thought it was funny because Icebags replied to this tweet and he says, every time I can't sleep, I take client funds. Just kind of silly. Like really? Like that's your excuse? Like, oh, you got ADD, you know, depression, and you're vegan. So we shouldn't treat you like we do other convicts? Like, I don't know. Anyways, that excuse is pretty funny. Now, during the court hearing, Sam Bankman-Fried's parents were present. And so I've got a couple snippets from an article discussing what that situation was like. It says, Bankman-Fried's parents, Joe Bankman and Barbara Fried, were seated in the third row behind members of the press. They appeared to oscillate between dejection and defiance, at times holding their heads in their hands and clasping their hands. Bankman-Fried's mother audibly laughed several times when her son was referred to as a fugitive, and his father occasionally put his fingers in his ears as if to drown out the sound of the proceedings. Now look, I'm a little sympathetic to the parents. Like, I get it. Like, you know, this is your son. Nobody wants to see, you know, any family member go through something like this. So I can understand them being upset and trying to defend their son and things like that. But to be laughing in court and to plugging your ears like a child because you don't want to hear like that, to me is a little bit over the top. We also have a second snippet from this, again, going over what happened in the courtroom. And it says, a police officer brought a Ziploc bag of Bankman-Fried's belongings into the court, which contained his medication, and the judge asked if he needed water to take it. Sam said, I don't need water, but I need to take my shirt off to take them. Bankman-Fried, who is known to take ensign patches as an antidepressant, told the court. Well, you certainly can't take your shirt off in court, the judge said before allowing him to leave the room for several minutes to take his medication. Bankman-Fried, who was characteristically jittery before taking his medication, was no longer jittery upon his return. Now, whether this is an actual medication for Sam or just something that he was taking sort of recreationally, because we know that Sam was taking Adderall and a lot of other stimulants, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not sure, like whether this ensign patches or something that he actually needs or what. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to provide that for him in the prison. So, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to give him Adderall. So, yeah, this whole thing is like, again, it's hard for me to envision Sam sitting in one of those cells, but it's going to happen. It's happening now. He's there. So, yeah, pretty wild. Then we get this tweet from Frank Shapiro saying the SEC awarded more than $20 million to a whistleblower. Now, okay, what's significant about this? Well, if you guys remember a couple weeks back, if you didn't see on Twitter, Caroline was spotted in New York, which Caroline was the head of Alameda Research, good friends with Sam. They may have dated somewhere along the lines that was rumored about. And I think they even lived together in the penthouse. So they definitely knew each other very well. And she was spotted in New York. And everyone was wondering why she went to New York, because she's debatably just as guilty as Sam. Well, the timeline of all this kind of lines up. Like, is she the whistleblower that they paid $20 million to? Like, someone was on the inside giving them information to build this case to arrest Sam Bankman-Fried. I mean, we have chat groups and all these other things that came out, and it would have to be from someone in the inner circle. So I don't know. A lot of people are saying there's no way this is Caroline, and it's just kind of convenient that the timelines line up, but it would make a lot of sense. Like, I don't know. Like, why else would she be in New York? Like, and then New York, the Southern District of New York also happened to be the ones to issue the indictment. It seems a little too perfect to me. So, yeah, pretty interesting there. And then we have a little snippet from the Daily Mail saying, depressed Sam Bankman-Fried hugs his parents as he is denied bail and sent to an overcrowded hellhole Bahamas jail as prosecutors say he hid $300 million in a Brazilian firm before the collapse of FTX Exchange, which this is the only snippet I've seen about this money being hidden. So take that with a grain of salt. But I find it very hard to believe that Sam didn't take any money off of the exchange. I would be willing to bet money on the fact that Sam probably did take money off the exchange into some offshore account. So this makes complete sense to me. And this gets us into the current CEO, John Ray's testimony, because one of the things that John Ray says in this testimony is that there's no accountability for funds. Like, everything is basically like being diverted to Alameda, and it's all just moshed together, and there's no like organization to any of it. And if you guys want to watch this full testimony, I'll link it down below. It's 3 hours long, so it is a pretty lengthy one, but it's got a lot of good information in it. And I watched the majority of it, and so I wanted to kind of give you guys some highlights from it. And one of those things was that everything was just so commingled. And one of the things he says over and over again in this testimony is that basically there's no way that Sam didn't know what was going on. First of all, he was 99% owner of Alameda Research, which was, don't forget, the company that he started up with Caroline and other people that he was a part of before FTX. So for him to not know what was going on with Alameda is just total BS. And then he also said, and we have a tweet from Laura Shin that says, from the inception of FTX, Bankman-Fried diverted FTX customer funds to Alameda, and he continued to do so until FTX's collapse in November. So basically, customers are depositing their funds on FTX, and bam, they're being sent to Alameda. Like, it wasn't even like a second thought. Like, that was just the process. And I have a very hard time believing that Sam did not know that that was going on. And I think most of us know that Sam has been lying. Like, there's no way that he wouldn't have known any of this is going on, and he's playing dumb now. But basically what John Ray came out and said is like, look, there's no way he didn't know this. We've got all the documents here that he would have had to have known this and or approved it for it to happen. And he says that the main problem that FTX faced was that the control of everything was centralized to just a few people at the top. So a few people at the top could basically do whatever they wanted with any of the money. There was no risk management in place. There was hardly any accountability. It was just kind of spending money. He even gave a loan to himself. So Alameda gave Sam Bankman-Fried a $1 billion loan. And one of the things that John Ray says is that Sam was one of the people that signed allowing him to get that loan, and he also signed as the recipient of the loan. So that's a big no-no. And then he said that those funds were supposedly being used in, reinvesting into the exchange, but John Ray says that there's no documentation of any of that happening. They have no idea what happened to this $1 billion loan. But in a nutshell, that's what John Ray said, is that basically FTX is an absolute train wreck when it comes to the paperwork side of things. There was no accountability, nothing going on, and the few people at the top could call all the shots. So I thought that this was all a lot of information. Like, there's a ton happening right now. And guys, if you want to stay up to date as things continue to come out, hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, guys, I will see you all next time.